Thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Aaron Walker. I am the founder and CEO of Camelback Ventures. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and then pass it over to the stars of the show, which are our fellows. So I started Camelback 6 years ago, but really this has been a lifelong venture for me. When I was school age, I remember my parents moved to a suburban town in New Jersey, and the street we lived on was the last street in the suburban town, and one street over was Newark, New Jersey. And I don't think I appreciated it as a kid, but definitely as an adult, understood that I literally grew up on the street that was the difference between two zip codes. And I was one of the fortunate ones. I happened to grow up on the side of the street that afforded me to go to relatively good public schools, allowed me to be the first in my family to go to college and do a whole bunch of other things. And so I think for me, what I've been searching for as an adult is how can I make sure that any kid, regardless of where they live, has the same opportunities that I did growing up. And so I've done that in a variety of different ways. I spent some time teaching in Philadelphia. I went to law school and practiced law. I had a chance to work in New York City Department of Education in the government. And so for the last 6 years, I have been trying to solve this question of how can I create a world where it doesn't really matter where you grow up, but that you have the opportunity to live out what we call the American dream. And so the way that we do that at Camelback is through supporting entrepreneurs, and particularly marginalized entrepreneurs in the space, which are women and folks of color. And so you're going to meet our 13 amazing founders this year who are going to tell you about their ventures. But before they do that, I just want to give you a little update on what we've been up to the last 5 years. Oh, that's me, by the way. So 5 years, 65 founders, over 90% of them folks of color, nearly 60% of them are female founders. We, as part of our programming, provide them with a whole set of, non-financial supports, but also make investments in their companies as well. And so over the last 5 years, we've put in over $2 million into the 65 founders that we've worked with, and they have turned that into over $30 million. And so we're really excited that our capital is able to catalyze other funding as well. So now that we're in year 5, we've been evolving as an organization, and so we really have 3 tracks. We've got our education founders, a track we're calling Conscious Tech, which are sort of founders who are working with technology in the social good space, and a new program that we launched earlier this year, which we're calling our Local Economies Work. In addition to growing the work, of course, we got to grow the team because I don't do all the work. And I've got an amazing team behind me. So we have, if you were here last year, we had a team of 4. This year we've doubled. We have a team of 8. So we've got some amazing new people on our team who have come from amazing companies and amazing places like CNN and Carol's Daughter. And we've got a new person who is also running our fellowship that I want to introduce you to. His name is Dr. Charles Kapor. He's a 20-plus year educator, PhD by training, social entrepreneur, and it is just a delight for me to be able to, as we evolve, be able to turn over this program and see his leadership as we continue to evolve the work that we're doing. So I'm going to turn it over to Charles, who will lead you through the night.
Good evening, everyone. We're excited. And so as Aaron has talked about where we've been as an organization, I want to talk about where we are right now. And so I have been fortunate, and thank you, Aaron, for your leadership and Ami Magunian's leadership around making sure that we are in a place that is ready to take on the next challenges in education, the next challenges in conscious tech, and the next challenges that we see actually in our local economies in New Orleans. But I have been fortunate this year to have been charged with 13 fellows. 13 fellows that are doing amazing things across the country in education. They're doing amazing things thinking about dirt bikes and video games. And one of our fellows has made sure that our interns are paid. Imagine that, and I don't want to steal his thunder, but imagine what that's like. We have career educators who said that, you know what? I'm going to start my own school, right? That's courage. That's courage to say, I'm going to go out and start my own school and take my own philosophies and make sure that our children are educated the way that they should be. We have people who are just out of college. Can you imagine that when you were 25 years old, what you were doing? I can't imagine at 25 years old what I was doing at 25. I wasn't founding an organization, but we have 25-year-olds founding organizations that are making seismic change in our in the country. I want you to think about that. They've been recognized by some of the most prominent companies in the country: NPR, Facebook, Google, L'Oreal. But unfortunately, how we measure success is by the number of dollars that they've actually raised. But it's interesting, as I talked to them and made sure that the numbers were actually correct, in 6 months collectively, they have raised over $2 million in for-profit and nonprofit funding. That is an amazing number. But that's not enough. That's not enough. And that's why you're here tonight. Because what we'd like for you to think about is how you can give your time, treasure, and talent to them. Because without you, they can't make the imprint, the footprint, the dent that we need in our education, in our technologies, in the places that we need the most. So we need you. We need you to think about, as you hear their pitches tonight, to get excited about the work that they're doing. So enough of me, because it hasn't been about me for the last 6 months. It's been about them. And so bringing to the stage the man that is going to excite us all about why we're here and why we are ruthless for good, my brother, Ace Academy, Marcus Harden.
No pressure on exciting you. All right, who am I? Well, I'm Marcus Harden, the executive director and co-founder of the Academy for Creating Excellence, an all African-American male charter school in Atlanta, Georgia, serving grades 6 through 13, that will look to change the educational landscape and outcomes for African-American males. However, the question of who am I is the existential and quintessential question that we ask to all of our young men. And when we ask that question, their response overwhelmingly is, I am excellence. I got the merch. Our why. We understand that education is our greatest choice for liberation. We understand that our young men, African-American young men in this country, are the heroes of their own story. They don't need anybody to come and save them. And we understand that they are worthy of a place that promotes love and honors their dignity. We do this through our values of fame, family, academics, motivation, and environment. So when I think about family, man, I think about my guy Harvey up front with the Champion of the Day belt. A young man who comes to school every single day after giving his 2 siblings ready for school, walks into school, drops them off, shows up late, but says, Mr. Marcus, I'm here to learn. He thinks about family. When I think about academics, I think about Jacob, who shows up every single day and says he wants to learn how to be an engineer, wants to be in technology, wants to run his own business. And we start to have conversations around our premise of learning, which is project-based learning, culturally responsive learning, access to interest-based learning, and all points in between. When I think about motivation, what do I think about? I think about Korshan, who stood up at our final banquet in our pilot program and said he was a better person. He was angry, and he was seen as an angry black man until he came to ACE, and he understood what love was, to be loved and to love back. And when I think about environment, I think about how we can become viable world citizens and how our young men can affect change in the world, but also how our young men have affected me. As a 16-year educator, I've understood that the same traumas that happen to our young black men in school happen to our young black educators in the same schools they serve in. And that's what ACE is here to save and change. Why Atlanta? Why not? It's our personal Wakanda forever. We know there's great opportunity in Atlanta. There's entrepreneurship, there's black tech, There's Tyler Perry Studios if you're really into Medea. There's all those things. But there's also opportunity for change. The graduation rates are only 59% for black males. Only 34% identify themselves as post-secondary ready. And only in a town that's 51% African American, only 5% of the teachers are African American males. And that's what we aim to change. Our approach is simple. Competency-based learning, students learn through mastery, project-based learning, culturally relevant, real-world exploration, which leads to post-secondary success. A day in the life is very easy. You come in and you're greeted with love. You know your brother's there for you. At ACE, we do not believe you are your brother's keeper, but you are your brother's brother. We are responsible for each other. We have Brother with Breakfast. We have Creation and Exploration, Health and Wellness, talking about the things that affect black and African American males, while we all have the sugars or diabetes and how to fight that. Not all of us. I'm good. We have Advisory, no more than 20 students, and Humanities. We do this through team, technology, entrepreneurship, arts, and mindsets. At ACE, young men will leave ready and prepared to be viable world citizens. So far, we've had great recognition and success in numerous publications and blogs. That's not what we do it for. The most successful was when our parents, Ms. Kiki says, my son believes in himself the same way I believe in him now, thanks to ACE. Your excellence, this is where we need your help. Through your service, if you know some qualified educators, we're looking for a school leader. If you want some expertise in charter school management, we're looking for a great board. And last but not least, we won't pass along the correction plate, but we're looking to raise $1.6 million in the next year to get this started. Because one thing we believe in is paying our teachers well. That's me. We'll get to that. Who am I? Well, the question is this. If you believe in the promise of African American young men, I need you to stand up. And since you're standing, if you would, repeat after me. I am a leader. I will guide and inspire my family and community. I am capable. I can do all things I put my mind to. I am a genius. I display high intelligence and skill. I am responsible. I control my own actions and make good decisions. I am fearless. I walk with boldness and strength. I am excellence, as we all can be. Believe in us the same way they believe in you. Support ACE Academy. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I am Vanessa Castañeda-Gil, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Social Cipher, a video game studio for neurodivergent youth. Now, I'd like you to meet Ava. She is a bright and brilliant young girl, and she has so many different superpowers that we don't even see. She's autistic. This is Ava's story. As Ava grows up, she is told that her behavior is unwanted and unnatural. That can lead to loneliness and isolation. In fact, she is 5 times more likely to experience bullying and 10 times more likely to die by suicide compared to her neurotypical peers. On top of that, along with 85% of autistic college graduates, she's unemployed. Now, I know this story for myself. I was diagnosed with Asperger's at 14, and when I figured out how the world saw me, I felt broken. And I experienced years of depression and anxiety and low self-esteem. Ava and I are just 2 of the 75 million autistic people in this world, and we face many of the same obstacles. But there is a place of refuge for us, and that is in video games. In fact, we are 2 times more likely to play video games, and that's for good reason. Autistic traits and game elements line up great, and it's a place to have the human experience without fear of judgment or rejection. We are going to become the leaders of neurodivergent gaming. Social Cipher is a video game studio that gives neurodivergent youth a place to play their way to self-advocacy and self-confidence. We give players a safe and accessible space to apply social skills and respond to situations. And the first time we're doing that is through Ava, our first game. Ava is a role-playing platform adventure that follows an autistic star mapper as she fights her way across the universe with feuding space pirates, battling her self-doubt and finding her strengths. And with our 60 family team and our 60 family team and community, our autistic advocate team, and our testing groups, we're gonna make a game that represents and stands with autistic people around the world. We also build social emotional competencies like self-awareness with our dialogue choices and gamified emotions. Ava's going to be distributed B2C in summer 2020, and then we're going to scale to schools where it will be used as a social emotional tool. And the global game-based learning market is huge. It is expected to reach $17 billion in 2023. Unlike our competitors, we have dynamic gaming elements that prioritize immersion, story, and fun. And because we're a video game, we're digital, we're accessible, and we're affordable. And we've already gained momentum. We just had a successful Kickstarter this June and raised $31,000 in revenue and gained 190 customers. Thank you. And that was all accomplished by our amazing team with our expertise in gaming and entertainment. And on top of that, we have some fantastic advisors that have 60 years of combined experience in gaming and social enterprise. We're raising a $400K pre-seed round to finish the development and launch of Ava. So if you want to join in our mission to empower autistic youth, find me after the showcase. At Social Cipher, we imagine a future in which a diagnosis isn't viewed as a deficit, but a superpower. Help us make that future a reality. Thank you.
Hey, yo. Hey, yo. All right, what's good, Oakland? My name is Corey Minka Montalvo, and I'm the founder and chief plug of the Youth Empowerment Broadcasting Organization, or YABO, where we leverage the power of media and pop culture to support students in grades 5 through 12 with developing into righteously authentic and self-determined individuals. Today, I'm going to talk to you about two worlds I've helped to develop. The first world is a world we know well. This is a world where students are disconnected with their schooling experience, they're living unseen and unheard. This is a world where they're told to be quiet, to pull up their pants, and to turn down their music. Unfortunately, in this world, every 26 seconds, a high school student drops out of school. 7,000 students a day. I helped contribute to this world as a dean of students in an elementary school where I silenced kids as a tool of an oppressive system. I discovered, though, that I have a choice. We can develop a new world, a new future, and to do so, I engaged my deepest passions in comic books. Together with the students, we created a comic book club that acted as an alternative behavior management system, and I discovered that students developed a deeper level of awareness for the emotions and for the world around them. This showed me that media and pop culture can act as a powerful mechanism and vehicle to drive the mindsets and attitudes needed for young people to exist healthy in the 21st century. And this was also the birth of YABO. YABO is not only a word, an acronym for our organization, it's a word of affirmation and agreement in South Africa. And within that tenet, we started to develop a new universe. And in this universe had a world where students living as their full selves, unmitigated, weren't labeled as villains. They were uplifted as powerful decision makers and chief drivers of their learning experience. They were able to create their own empires. In this world, we created a 90-day experience for students that sits within and outside the school day experience, and offers them a chance to develop their own media ventures that are rooted in creating social good in their community. In this world, we don't tell students to be quiet and to shut up. We don't tell them to plug out. We tell them to plug in to their passions for media and pop culture. We offer them a safe space to explore, interrogate the world, and ask why. They can go live with their ideas because we offer them resources, including our transportable media labs that are called YABO Labs, small grants, and access to a wealth of media and artist partners. And they speak up on social justice causes as well as their vision for the future with their final products. In this new future, we created a world where young Latino women can come into school and create podcasts on immigration rights and how it impacts their family. In this world, we created a future where students can develop their own media makerspaces in their school to help their communities own and tell their own stories. And then they got to paint up and graffiti their own image of themselves and their own identity in their schools. In this world, kids are creating generational impact as near-peer mentors, as well as inspiring their own parents to create podcasts that address community issues. In this world, students know the power of their voice. They also see phones and media as a way to drive social change in their community. In this world, students are seen fully for all their complexity, all their swag, and inner dopeness. And this is the world we're creating through Yabo. So I have to ask you, which world do you choose? And if you share our vision, or know anyone who shares our vision, I challenge you to step up and become a corporate or industry sponsor for our youth, to plug them into more resources so they can realize their dreams for the future. And however you plug into our work, please look at youth and their ideas as valuable gifts and learn from them. Because we know that if youth are to pull up their pants, we must first uplift their spirits. Yabo.
So I want you to give me a nod of a head if you have ever had a substitute teacher. Yeah. So I have an even more important question. What happens when the teacher is absent? Well, that's right? And it depends on if you're a student that attends a low-income school, right? So if you do, your teacher is absent for at least 10 or more days, which equals 35 days of learning loss for not only you, but 21 million of your peers across 56,000 schools across our country. And I'm going to tell you why. 17.4 million substitutes are expected to fill those positions, are not quality, they are not vetted, and they are not properly trained to ensure that learning continues. But that's up until now. I'm Jasmine Edwards, and I am the CEO and founder of iSubs, where we ensure that schools get quality vetted subs that are here to ensure that learning continues. And I'm going to show you how we do that. So after a substitute is vetted, we invite them to training, where we help them to be qualified for instruction and behavior so that they are prepared for the classroom. Now, after they pass the training, they are invited to complete their profile online, and after they complete that profile, they click on that blue button right in the corner so they can start working. Now, after they start working, after each assignment, they complete a daily evaluation that lets us know how they did that day in the classroom. Here's where the secret sauce comes in. We collect data on every single day that they do over a time period that informs us of the specific training that they need in behavior and instruction so that they have the capacity to continue ensuring that learning never stops. And we are proud to say that we've ensured that 252 students to date have learned. Now, we've been able to get the support of press, of programs, and also of investors. But most importantly, we've gained the trust from schools, and we have gained the trust from substitutes, that we have the capacity to train them so that learning continues for our students and they don't have to ask what happens when my teacher is absent. Now, we know that we're leading in this area because we focus on data and we focus on training. Now, when it comes to making money, we charge schools a 25% fee for each sub job worked, and then or a $250 flat rate. Now, When we go to market, we actually approach substitutes through digital job ads, and then we also partner with workforce alliances. For schools, we do district presentations, and we're looking at partnering with school networks. And we know that it's possible because we're targeting a $1.8 billion substitute market. And although we believe that we are a $100 million company, we are focused on getting to $6.3 million by 2021. And we've made progress. We have made progress. We have made 40K. We have got 40K from Camelback Ventures. We have launched our product. We have done 2 trainings just for the school year thus far, and we have onboarded our 2 pilot schools, one of them returning from last year. Now, we have the team that's capable. We have years of experience in private and public sector work with a strong focus on education. We're currently raising between 150 to 200K so that we can strengthen our training program. We're also looking to partner with school networks who know they need our services. I invite you to join us on our journey to ensure that all substitutes are trained so that kids can continue to learn and that not one of them has to ask, what happens when my teacher is absent? What they're gonna do is, instead of you saying, yeah, we watch a movie, they'll say, I learn. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandy Williams. I'm the founder, Generation Success, but I'm also a failure. I bet you didn't expect me to get up here and tell you that, right? Let me explain why. My greatest failure has also propelled my greatest strength. You see, in 2015, I was entering my 14th year of education. I get a phone call. Starts like any other day, but the voice on the other end of the call tells me, you need to meet the ambulance at Children's Hospital. My son, an amazing 6th grade student, attempted suicide in his school's bathroom. I was devastated. I was heartbroken because I failed him. I failed him as an educator. I missed every single sign. I failed him as a parent. I failed him. But I vowed that day to never allow that failure to be felt by another educator, another parent, or another person, period. And it has propelled my work with Generation Success. Because my son, who is a twice exceptional student, is not being serviced well enough. Generation Success is looking to be a 9th to 12th grade charter school, but what we're solving is that many students in our already widely known charter market are still not being serviced well enough. We fit that need. That's our goal. My son is a part of the 8% of students who will graduate from high school unprepared to go to college or get a career. We have to do more because exceptional learners deserve it. My son deserves it. So what do? As a 9th to 12th grade charter school, we have been community built and community driven. That means that the students within our market have involved themselves in the building of our community and our school. They informed our choices as a school. Their parents have informed our choices as a school. And what do that's so different? Our secret sauce is very simple. We love first and judge later. We look to children to make sure that they're not being judged by how well as a fish they can climb a tree, but we give them the platform to find their ocean. Every student that comes into our building gets a personalized learning plan, and that plan is informed by data that is taken more regularly than normal schools because we know that that is a best practice to leading students, especially those with twice exceptionalities, to success. And so, it works, right? 95% of our parents recommend us. And we have a 95% net promoter score as well. For those of you that might not be familiar with that, that means our parents rate us at 9s and 10s on a 10-point scale. We're doing the work that makes the most difference, but that's still not enough. Though we've had returns on investment since 2015, and our students have grown by 2.5 years of growth annually, though we have a deep investment in diversity as a minority-led and governed organization, and though we are serving and representing the most underserved populations, there's still room for us to do more. Can you imagine what we can do outside of New Orleans? What we can do to ensure that my son's pains are not felt in vain? So this is it. We're asking you to join us in our fight. As we launch School One, it will take $1.6 million, but 1.2 is our platform because we've already started raising. We are asking that you all look to us to open School One with 200 students and over 600 by our year of capacity. Then we'll move to other schools, as we already have satellite campuses in 2 other states. So, let me just tell you, I'd be remiss if I didn't let you know that my son is doing well. You can see, he's awesome. I kind of like that kid. He is now in his sophomore year of high school. He has joined Boy Scouts right after we got him the help that he needed after he attempted suicide, and he's an Eagle Scout. I'm so proud of him. My son is also a 4-time junior Olympian in track and field. Who knew? Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm sure he's watching. He'll like that too. And then most importantly, my son is a writer. He now has been published 4 different times and has 2 trademark patents for his work. Yes. He can be one person who changes the world for everyone. And he's one of our students. Help us to change the world for everyone. Help us to be the difference and the light in the future. If you're interested, come and find me afterwards. I look for all of your questions and I'm happy to answer. Thank you guys so much.
They're going to be thoroughly immersed in what it means to be a CEO over the next week. This week is all about having them dive into our core competencies, to the fellowship, meeting each other, building community.
I just have never really connected with a group and felt so incredibly tight-knit in a week like this.
It'll probably be one of the few times that they will be in a room with folks who look like them, who come from their background.
Sharing the same feelings, emotions, hurdles, cries, and laughs.
It validated me in a lot of ways. It was like, I am actually ready.
We're trying to do something that hasn't been done before.
We are changing the game of entrepreneurship. We're showing that there's a plethora of people in our country, all across the world, that have genius ideas, but all they need is a chance.
If you need anything, let me know.
Thank you so much.
To have a network like this that has produced so many successful ventures, believe in my vision, especially at an earlier stage, it means so much.
When someone raises their hand and says that they believe in you, you just realize you're not alone.
Hello, I am Brittany Young. I'm the founder of B360. At 30 years old, I'm also a retired chemical engineer. So this means I work for companies like NASA, McCormick, the list can go on and on and on. But when I first entered the industry, I was confused for the secretary. This, of course, made me mad and angry. But more importantly, it lit a fire into me to come back to Baltimore and do more inclusive programming, because that's where I got my start in my home. Being a girl from West Baltimore gives me strength, security, and it's the genius that's in me. And yes, that's me when I was young. So being an engineer, I'm always trying to solve problems. When I looked at other industries, I saw the same things, which was a lack of diversity. Motocross being one. The industry is $32.3 billion, but it's not representative of communities like mine. So in Philadelphia, we ride. In Boston, we ride. In Oakland, y'all ride too. But in my home of Baltimore, where I'm from again, we also ride, but we don't have the same opportunity to get there. In my city, it's a misdemeanor for owning a dirt bike, a misdemeanor for riding on private property, and a misdemeanor for riding on public property. Same dirt bike, same talent. Ask yourself what's the difference between the two. That brings us to students like Kamaya. At 12, Kamaya wants to grow up to become a scientist. At 12, Kamaya wants to go into the industry to become a professional rider. But what do we tell her when neither industry looks like her? STEM, only 5% of all engineers are Black, less than 2% are women. In motocross and motorsports, we don't see her reflected. We instead see students like Deron, who at 12 knew how to build, design, and create his own dirt bike. At 12, he's a dirt bike rider. And at 12 in Baltimore, he's a criminal. That's not good enough. So we believe that people, regardless of who they are or where they come from, deserve equal opportunity. So we can use this to change perceptions of who dirt bike riders are, who engineers are, a platform for social change, but also create opportunity. This means jobs for now and jobs for the future. So we do this in 3 different ways. Advocating like I'm doing right now for those who want to ride safely. Events and motorsports, so gaining attraction and revenue to cities for events. Safe spaces and parks. We're currently working with the city of Cleveland to help develop their own, which will be the first in the country. And our bread and butter is our STEM education program. For students under 16, we want you in the program. So learning how to build, code, design, and 3D print model-sized dirt bikes. Then learning how to repair, fix, and sell your dirt bike as well. And if you're over 16, everybody wants to be like Mike. So this means we want you to go into industry as an instructor. So far, we've hired 23. We propelled them to higher education to become engineers. And then they also work in industry between NASA and Red Bull right now. And the one thing we're creating is opportunity. So now, Kamaya, Deron, and Mike ride with Red Bull, motocross, and on the sport as we see them in Texas, which is a lot different than we would have saw 2 years ago. And for me, this journey started in 2017. So I've been gifted to be in a couple great fellowships, Camel being one of my favorite. We work with 5,000 students and counting. But the main goal that I tried to do was to switch the narrative. This means anytime you Google dirt bikes in Baltimore, soon one day in Oakland, when people listen to me, that we come up as a new narrative, the new lane, because we're creating and shifting the culture. So we sustain as a social enterprise with a hybrid model. This means grants and donations to support our STEM education program, fee-for-service work, so again, working with cities and governments around how do you create safe spaces, and then products. So wanting to do STEM education tools for teachers, parents, and students, wanting to create safe spaces, creating helmets, and then one day we'll also launch dirt bikes as well. Our goal is to take over the industry. $32.3 billion can turn into $100 billion with people like me. So we started with 10K in 2017, which allowed us to serve 1,200 students. We served 5,000 in less than 18 months. For $300 million, we spend taxpayers' monies in Baltimore, police and communities like mine. This program exists for $350 per student. Our overall goal is that we want more industry partners, more sponsors, more opportunity, but we also want people to be more conscious and cognizant of Deron's, Brittany's, Mike's, and Kamaya's. We belong in this space. We have a voice. Talent is equally distributed. Thank you. I'm glad you knew that line. But follow us on Instagram and Facebook at B360 Baltimore. Join our revolution, and thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Number 7, lucky number 7. I'm excited to be here with you guys. My name is Kimberly Neal, and I'm here to talk to you guys about Believe Circle City. Before I can get to Believe Circle City, though, I've got to tell you where I've been, which is what's led me to where we're going. I started my career as Teach for America Corps member in 2002 in St. Louis, but most recently, I was a principal at Mushin College Prep. That's the most proud moment for me. We created an amazing school in downtown Chicago, and we hit all the metrics that you would expect a high-performing school to hit. Our school was #1 for a while in the city of Chicago above selective enrollments. We closed the academic achievement gap with a 21 on the ACT. We had over 95% attendance. Everything you can think of, 100% of our students got into college. We did it. And I'm super proud of the work that we did. And then I moved to DC, and I did it with another team in DC at KIPP DC AIM Middle School. All of that felt really great until I got to DC. That's when I kind of feel like I grew up. A lot of people in the world are saying woke now, so I woke up, for a lack of better terms. And I had to face some tough realizations about some of the work that I had accomplished with a great team of people and with a great group of kids. We hadn't done it equitably. We hadn't done it in service of the Black and brown families that we were serving. We were working within a system that was created for high achievement for Black and brown kids, but at the expense of their dignity oftentimes. We didn't recognize on many days that whether your shirt is tucked in or not has no impact on whether you can read or not. And that's something that sits heavy on me and something I have to live with. But through Camelback and other organizations, I've got the opportunity to rethink and reimagine how we approach education. 100% graduation, 90+% matriculation, 40% graduation. Class of 2013, Mushin College Prep's founding class, as of today, 40% graduation. Great number in the country, just FYI. It's higher than most of the other high-performing schools in our country, and it's higher than in our demographic than most schools, period, in our country. So we're really proud of it, but it doesn't feel good. 40% doesn't feel good. That means 60% of my kids are at home with student loan debt, lower credit scores, no degree, no career certification, and no way to earn a livable wage. That doesn't feel good, and we've got to figure out how to rethink and reimagine education, which has brought me to believe. I'm super excited to talk about this new model where we're gonna focus on agency, acceleration, and autonomy. The similar education that our affluent peers get at schools like University of Chicago Lab School, the Friends School, or what we're gonna focus on, where our kids come to school and they feel like they don't have to walk the line. They can come in and talk to their friends when they walk in the building. We're gonna talk about identity. We're gonna talk about where our kids have come from so they can understand where they're going. We're gonna make sure that all of our students leave us able to earn a livable wage. We're gonna have life coaches for our kids. We're gonna talk about what it means to have a healthy lifestyle when you leave. How do you stay civically engaged in your community? We're gonna focus on things that we're still gonna get those good test scores, but we're also gonna focus on things that matter for whole, happy human beings. And we're gonna make sure that our kids feel good when they leave our walls. So I'm really excited about the work that we're doing. We're gonna have some strong success criteria, some academic, some non-academic. We're gonna make sure that housing is, our students are able to figure out how to get housing. We're gonna make sure that our students, when they leave us, are able to do emails and LinkedIn and all of the things that if you grow up where I grew up, you may not learn at home. We're really excited about our model. We're really excited about freedom. And what we're most excited about is reimagining what education looks like in this ed reform movement for Black and brown kids. It doesn't always have to be no nonsense. It doesn't always have to be strict and overly disciplined. We can do this a different way and get similar outcomes. If you're interested in reimagining and rethinking how we go about in this journey, think about supporting Believe. I'll be here after the show. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Vici. I'm one of the co-founders of Rural Opportunity Institute, and we believe in a trauma-responsive, healthy, and thriving rural Eastern North Carolina. I first came to Eastern North Carolina as a high school teacher, and it's been one of the greatest honors of my life to get to know the people and the history of this place. One of the towns in our community, Princeville, was the first town in America to be incorporated by freed black slaves after the Civil War. The children I taught and the people I now serve come from a long legacy of strength and resilience, and yet they face incredible challenges. Just as one example, if you look at this map that shows median household income across the country, Eastern North Carolina in the green circle is part of a swath of communities across the rural South that struggle the most. Pull up this other map of heart disease, and you notice a really similar pattern. At first glance, you might think this is because the people here make bad choices, or they're just unlucky. But if you dig deeper, you'll realize that's entirely not the case. This map from 1860 shows the population of slaves across the rural South. And what always strikes me is that this pattern looks almost identical to the maps I just showed you. What that tells us is that the challenges that communities like rural Eastern North Carolina face are rooted in systems and institutions that were constructed centuries ago during a time of slavery and whose vestiges still persist in our systems today. We created Rural Opportunity Institute to confront this reality and imagine a different reality. We bring together government agencies and community members to actually talk about how it is that our public institutions continue to perpetuate historical trauma and inequity. We work to actually change practices to be less punitive and more healing. And finally, we look to support people who are in the process of healing to stay connected to pathways of school, work, and wealth building. In the last 2 years, we've been able to bring together over 3,000 people across sectors like schools, health, law enforcement, justice, faith, and community to begin to have these conversations. And what people overwhelmingly describe is a mindset shift. Those who've long felt pain at the hands of the system say they finally feel hope because they're no longer being blamed for the challenges they've experienced. And those who are part of our most punitive systems are starting to take responsibility and admit that we need to do something different. Law enforcement and schools were named by many community members as the most punitive systems that we have, and the leaders of these systems have started to acknowledge the same. So in the last year, we've been working with each of them to begin to redesign what spaces like the jail or what experiences like suspension or expulsion can look like to, instead of punishing and isolating people, actually provide opportunities for healing and connection. Building on that positive momentum, we're super excited to share that we're raising $250,000 to launch the first iteration of the ROI Accelerator next year. Unlike traditional accelerators, we're going super deep and focusing on government institutions and working to provide them with support around design thinking to begin to redesign policy and practice to be healing instead of punitive. Not only will this embed healing practices in institutions that are going to long outlive many of us, but also we hope that the insights will generalize to other communities across the South that face a similar history and similar challenges. We got a really strong team around this. My co-founder and I both have been trained both in trauma-responsive practices, but also in design thinking out here in the Bay from the firms IDEO and Frog. And then we have a dope community accountability board that brings wisdom, relationships, trust, and all of that's going to hold us accountable to doing what's best for our community. So if you're interested in talking more specifically about the accelerator, would love to chat later. And I hope that you will join me in shining a light on Eastern North Carolina and helping us imagine what compassionate, supportive, and accountable rural institutions can look like. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shantae Elliott, and I am the founder and CEO of Tassel Turn. At Tassel Turn, we believe that no tassel should be left unturned. Allow me to introduce you to Marvell, the gentleman in this photograph. Marvell is from the west side of Chicago. He and I met during his sophomore year of high school. Instantly, I knew that Marvell was extremely gifted and a superstar in his own right. Unfortunately, though, Marvell had a pretty difficult high school experience. You see, by the time he reached high school, he had already attended 5 different schools. He had an IEP that had gone unimplemented, and he lacked consistent support to help him reach his goal of attending and graduating from college. Stories like Marvell really are not uncommon. You see, Marvell is a student in the foster care system. And unfortunately, schools are unable to identify stories like his because they're not personalized. And I know this firsthand because I share Marvell's story. As an alum of the foster care system, I know how difficult it is to really fall in love with education and have the best education possible. He and I are no anomaly. In recognizing this, I decided to create a solution for this problem because it is indeed quite huge. In fact, 64% of homeless students graduate high school, 32% of foster-involved students graduate. These students are earning less than $10,000 a year, are chronically homeless, unemployed, and become incarcerated at about 80%. But there is a solution, and it is in the form of an app called TasselTurn. And TasselTurn, what we do is we partner with schools to ensure that homeless and foster-involved high school students make it to high school graduation, college, and career ready. Put a little more simply, similar to Slack, we are a mobile digital solution that streamlines communication, personalizes education, and ensures that this vulnerable student population has a post-graduation plan. In 2018, we were able to run a pilot where we saw that 100% of our students wanted TasselTurn. We saw a 70% improvement in school attendance. 40% of our students eligible for completed a FAFSA. Marvell was one of them. And we were able to award more than $1,200 in student incentives sponsored by Walmart and Target. Schools and students love us for 3 reasons in particular. We have use a virtual educational coaching model, provide real-time data, and are trauma-informed in our curriculum approach. How we worked, simply put, we connect, coach, and track. We match every homeless and foster-involved student in a school to their own educational coach, whom we recruit, vet, and train in motivational interviewing. Secondly, with our curriculum, we use that to structure the coaching relationship. And lastly, we provide schools with the data they need on this population that's often forgotten so that they can make real-time solutions and early interventions. So our secret sauce, we do share, unlike others. We have a trauma-informed curriculum that we combine with human support. Our method and vehicle to deliver this is technology, and ultimately we close the achievement gap, ensuring that no student's tassel goes unturned. There's a huge need for what we do in our U.S. high schools. More than 400,000 foster-involved students attend every day. 1.2 million homeless high school students, and for every 1 counselor, there is 482 students. Schools cannot do this work by themselves. So we've had several early wins that include participating in national accelerators, including Camelback. We were able to win Chicago's largest pitch competition for women tech founders. We were able to raise $80,000 in non-dilutive funding. And later this fall, we will have our first national press features with L'Oreal and Vox Media. So while there are others in this space, their solutions are just fragmented and outdated. For example, I mentor, they have a coaching model. Unfortunately, though, they don't recruit our students, and they often have a GPA requirement. Department of Children and Family Services, they provide services from a clinical standpoint. While I believe in medicine, this is not a problem that a pill can resolve. And think of us, they target older youth in the system, neglecting the population that we begin to serve as soon as they reach high school. So currently on our go-to-market strategy, we have provided trauma-informed trainings to nonprofit leaders as well as schools. We're now entering into phase 2, though, where we are looking to partner directly with schools with a subscription-based model. Our target is to have acquired 10 school partners. So far, we have 1 committed. Schools in the Midwest have yet to receive their budget. They just started school, so we're looking forward to that. And long-term, though, we see product licensing and data really being how we are able to share our data and what we capture with government agencies, including the Department of Children and Family Services and the Department of Education. So our core team is composed of 3 individuals specialized in trauma-informed interventions, program development, and curriculum design. We have worked in policy, higher education administration, and have made real change in large systems, including universities like the University of Chicago. And so we're here looking to raise over the next 18 to 24 months between $80,000 and $100,000. And what we need are strong members to join our advisory board, to introduce us to corporations for corporate sponsorships, where they will help us develop curriculum and in return receive branded marketing on our app as well as our curriculum. And lastly, we want to optimize our platform for scale with this funding as well. So raise your hand if you remember turning your tassel at your high school graduation. I think I see everyone. Will help us help ensure that every student in our schools has the opportunity to raise their hand. I'm happy to engage in conversation afterwards. Please feel free to connect with us on social media to watch our journey. Thank you.
From every mountainside.
They said we couldn't do it. But here we are, and we're just getting started.
I have a dream today.
What if you could be there to see that dream come true? To help that little girl stay in school, or to give a hand to a brother or sister for a better life.
These kids are our future.
At Camelback, we're investing in the future of our communities, our cities, and our country. It's a future that's fair, where the game isn't rigged by the color of your skin, where black or brown is just as powerful as white, where we teach all of our kids they can be anything they want to be.
I know my class will make sure they pay this forward.
Camelback is investing in schools, jobs, and some of the brightest minds in America who are actually making America better. But we can't do it alone. Every dollar you give will make our communities stronger, more powerful, and more independent. Join us at camelbackventures.org.
Hi, hello there. My name is Carlos Vera, and I'm the founder of Pay Our Interns. It was the second week of my unpaid internship in Congress, and I'm sure many of you guys can relate to that word. And I'm walking down the hallways of the Capitol. I'm looking around, I see other interns and staffers, and I quickly realize that no one looked like me except the custodian with his cart. In that moment, I realized that this is not what reflective democracy should look like. But more than that, I wondered, why aren't there more people in my community of Victorville, California, in these places of power? Well, here are some of the reasons why. Over half of the college students across the country can't intern because they're too busy working side jobs just to pay for college, because as we all know, that tuition keeps on increasing. Over half of college students are at risk of becoming homeless. And if you think about it, if you can't afford to eat, what makes you think you can afford an unpaid internship? And to make it worse, internships are only becoming more important nowadays. So if we could categorize all the problems I put in 3 categories. The first is lack of pay. I like to say experience does not pay the bills, because it doesn't. You can't pay your rent, especially here in the Bay, with experience. And the second one is not being in the right networks, not knowing the right people. As we know, that's how the world works. That's how you get jobs and internships. And the last is employers not knowing the technical know-how of creating equitable paid internship programs. So here's a solution: pay our interns. Our goal is to create an equitable pathway for youth of promise so they can become civically engaged and enter the pipeline and serve our country. And we do so by advocating for funding from the government. We do it with three components. The first is data, right? Because you have to know the landscape. And once you do, then we do the advocacy and grassroots push. And then once we do the grassroots push, we work on implementation and engagement. Our first initiative was in Congress. We went there early 2017. There was no data on who paid and who didn't. And it wasn't accidental. It's kind of like diversity numbers. No one wants to talk about them. So we went to all 545 offices, collected that data, and released this report, titled, of course, Experience Doesn't Pay the Bills. And we created this roadmap of how to fix this problem that for some reason for 200 years had never been fixed. Once we had that report, we leveraged it and we started getting offices to pay their interns from their own budgets. But the long-term goal was to create and pass legislation. Last year in September, I'm proud to say that we made history. We did them possible, and we worked with Congress to pass $14 million to pay interns. This is the first time in history, and we just got another $2.5 million increase a couple months ago. And as you can see, in 5 years, we're talking about over $80 million going to youth. And guess what? We don't have to raise it from foundations. That's going straight from the government to our youth. But our work wasn't done. Once offices have funding, you need to make sure it's going to the right kids, not just children of donors. And that's why we created a report and guide for offices. Then, the funnest part, we crisscrossed across the country to ensure that our communities knew about this new funding so they knew how to apply and how to get it. And we even had events with members like Rep. Ayanna Presley, who started off as an unpaid intern. So what's next? We're continuing our work in Congress. Our goal is to do $20 million per year in terms of budget, and we're 1 or 2 years off from that. And then from there, we want to take our model across the country to all 50 state houses. Here are some awards recognitions. My co-founder Guillermo and I have won. And our report that cost us like $5,000 to do, it's been covered in over 90 articles over the last 2 years and a half, including New York Times, the Washington Post, and the San Francisco Chronicle. Here are fundraising numbers. As you can see, in this current year, we've tripled our fundraising numbers, and it's not even the end of the year. And we dove so because we have momentum on our side. Here are some of our current funders. And this is our team. We're diverse, dynamic, and determined. And we all started off as unpaid interns. Our first place where we want to test out our theory of passing legislation is California. For me, it's personal. I'm a native Californian from Southern California. And what we want to do with your support and partnership is hire a fellow, pay them, of course, do a report, and then pass the same legislation that we did in Congress and the California State Legislature. And then once we do, we can open up countless doors for youth across the state, including HBCUs, HSIs, and community colleges, and then use this model and take it to all other 49 state houses. If you want to talk to me, I'm available later. And even if you don't, at a minimum, pay your interns. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Martin Knowles. I'm the head of school of I3 Academy in Birmingham, Alabama. My dad always taught me that my name is my most prized possession. My name is my most prized possession. Raise your hand if you know someone living today named Judas. Living today named Judas. It's very few people in the world named Judas. There's a reason for that. And in case you don't know, talk to me after this and I'll explain it to you. I have 3 sons, and we took a lot of time naming each son. My first son, his name is Martin Andrew Knowles II. It took us months to agree upon that name, but we did. My second son, His name is William Jackson Knowles. My mother-in-law's maiden name is Jackson. My wife's maiden name is William. William Jackson Knowles. Now, my third son, bless his heart, we did the best we could. So we arrived in the delivery room without a name. So over time, there's a lady that comes by and she asks for the name for the birth certificate. So we were there a couple of days without a name, so we decided to allow the medical staff to vote. The final vote was 11-1, so his name is perfect. Actually, his name is John Philip Knowles. With our school, we took the same approach because the name is so important. I3 Academy, imagine, investigate, innovate. We surveyed the community. We talked to people everywhere because we had to get the name right. But also the community. The community that we're in is Woodlawn. It's a small neighborhood in Birmingham with a very rich history. Actually, Bull Connor was a deacon in a church in Woodlawn. Yes, Bull Connor was a deacon. Bull Connor is the most infamous segregationist ever. He put hoses on black folks. He sicked German shepherds on black people. But he was a deacon in Woodlawn. But they also have some contemporaries that are great. Ricky Smiley, syndicated radio host. And my personal favorite, Chris Davis. As an Auburn fan, when he ran back Alabama's field goal in 2013 to win the Iron Bowl, that blessed my heart. But now it's a new day in Woodlawn. This is a rendering of our new facility. Our new facility is built for the community. In Alabama, we are required to have a storm shelter. Our school will be a storm shelter for the community. We will have wraparound services in our school because we're built for the community. Now, these three numbers are very important, and these three numbers are all about resilience. The first number, there were some scientists in San Diego who tried to experiment on a product. And we know that product today as WD-40 because it took them 40 attempts to make that product. There were also some scientists in Detroit, Michigan. They were trying to find the perfect household product. And it took them 407 times. And we know that product as Formula 407. But that last number is the most important number to me. That's our annual goal for fundraising. $500,000. And actually, that's why I am here today. We are looking for some donors to provide us $500,000 annually to take care of our 420 students. And we will give our students 40 chances to get it right or 407 chances to get it right because none of us get it right the first time. I3 Academy, Birmingham, Alabama, K-5 elementary school for 420 students. Please follow us on social media and please greet me after this. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marvin Pierre. I'm the co-founder of a nonprofit in Houston, Texas called 8 Million Stories. 8 Million Stories was designed to create a transformation in the lives of vulnerable youth between the ages of 14 to 18 through education, job readiness, employment, and authentic relationships. Before I dive into the work that we do, our work and our impact today wouldn't be possible without these amazing individuals here, our executive leadership team who has paved the way for the foundation of our success today. In the city of Houston, we refer almost 12,000 young people to our juvenile justice system between the ages of 10 to 18. And what's concerning about this referrals is that 80% of those referrals are for nonviolent offenses. And even more concerning is that once a young person comes in contact with the juvenile justice system, they often have very difficult opportunities to continue their education in their local communities. As a result, we find many of those young people back in our juvenile systems within 3 to 4 months because they have no access to quality education and meaningful employment. Therefore, 8 Million Stories was birthed with the direct intention of giving young people a direct pathway to completing their education, providing them with quality job readiness training and employment assistance, and most importantly, supporting them with social and emotional needs that many of them lack pre and post incarceration. This is an overview of the young people that we serve. We mainly serve young boys of color. 93% of our population is males. Average age is 17 years of age. Most of our young people who come to our program come with 3 or more years of missing traditional schooling. And lastly, 5% of our young people have been involved in prostitution or victims of sex trafficking. However, most of them come to us also with passion, ambition, and a purpose in terms of turning their lives around and being successful in life. And case in point here is one of my favorite students, Donovan. Donovan was enrolled in the 8 Million Stories program at the age of 17. He spent 2 years in a juvenile facility at the age of 15 for auto theft and selling narcotics. And so Donovan was one of the first students in our program that graduated from 8 Million Stories and was one of our first alumni to go to a 4-year institution. Donovan is currently a student at Tyler Junior Community College, and he continues to serve as a reminder to me why this work is so important. I remember when we had the fortunate opportunity of moving him into his dorm room, and on our way to Tyler, Texas, he said to me, "Mr. Pierre, this is so crazy. The last time I was driving towards Dallas, I was in a stolen car. I was stealing cars from Dallas and driving them back to Houston. And now I'm going back this route as a college student." So he continues to show us what is possible and how 8 Million Stories can transform the lives of young people in just a matter of a year. This is our impact in the past 2 years. We had 100% of our kids have walked away from our program with at least one nationally recognized vocational trade. 71% of our kids have been employed through our program. 37% of our kids have been able to close that 3-year gap and obtain a GED within a span of 6 months through our program. And 8% of our kids have gone on to pursue higher education opportunities or career pathways. And most importantly for us, and why we do this work, is to reduce recidivism rates. Of the 48 kids that we've graduated in the past 2 years, only 1 has gone back to jail. These are the amazing organizations and community partners that has signed up to take on the work that we're doing to disrupt our school-to-prison pipeline. We have been able to build these partnerships in just 2 years. So 8 Million Stories in the city of Houston, we have 100,000 young people that are considered disconnected or involved in the juvenile justice system. And so between the ages of 16 and 24, many of these young people are searching to find their way. And our goal over the next 2 years is to raise $1.8 million to create another site here in the city of Houston to close this gap. And we believe that most of our young people, if they're given the right resources and tools, they can be successful. Personally, for me, this work is important. We believe our young people belong in school or work, not prison. And so today, I hope that you guys, based on what we shared today, decide to join me and 8 Million Stories in disrupting the school-to-prison pipeline. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Samantha Pratt, and I'm CEO and founder of Click Engage. Before I dive in, can you guys do something for me really quick? Can you raise your hand and tell me if you spoke to a person before you entered this room? Okay, most of the people in this space. Raise your hand if you arrived here by plane, train, car, or foot to get to this venue tonight. Okay, so you all had to do something to get here, right? So you mean none of you woke up, rolled out of bed, and ended up in this space? Okay, so what's interesting is in education, we actually expect that our students' day starts when they enter the classroom, which is ridiculous because there's a dozen experiences you have before you enter any given space. Now I want you all to close your eyes and please don't fall asleep. And I want you to imagine for a second that you're 8 years old. Imagine that when you arrive home at night, you're met with the sounds of your parents arguing over various life stressors. Imagine that when you wake up in the morning, it's to an empty household. Now, imagine that when you're arriving to school, it's on an empty stomach. And then you're expected to sit in a desk and learn. Can you imagine it? You can't. And this is the experiences of 29 million students across America. This was my experience growing up. And this was the experience of all my students in Miami-Dade County. And the problem is that almost 6 million of those children, on top of having those experiences, develop mental illness. Yet less than 15% of them receive the services that they need. These experiences are known as complex traumas, and they have lasting psychological and academic consequences, including low school engagement. People are not meeting the needs of our students because they don't care. That's not true. As an educator, I cared about my students. I wanted to know what was going on with them. But due to my class sizes and my capacity, I couldn't check in with every student every morning. So I felt like I needed a way to check in with my students first thing when they entered my space. So it didn't take an extreme behavior or a negative interaction to tell me what they had going on. I needed something that could give me a real-time report of where my students were so I could be proactive instead of reactive to their needs. At Click Engage, we work to ensure that every child is in a safe and supportive environment. We do this by amplifying the voices of students so that we can better support teachers to be able to provide interventions to the students that need it. The way this plays out is simple. First, students enter the classroom and they self-report on our app. It takes less than 30 seconds. Then they're grouped into different color groupings where they're given a list of targeted coping mechanisms they can use throughout their day. But my favorite part is what the teacher gets. The teacher gets a real-time report of where every single student is, and they can use this information to inform interventions and connect students to services right away. Or even simply ask that student that's flagged, how are you doing today? Because that can change how they learn. The SEL market in America is about $640 million. Most of these services require in-person services. That means less students are being reached. If we can even approach 5% of that market, we can approach a $24 million share of the market. Now, we're doing this by asking it for a $3 per student rate with our new beta app. This serves approximately for $750, you can serve 250 students. That's 250 students whose days you will know how to impact. We primarily approach schools. We also approach nonprofits and other after-school programs. Now, there's lots of competitors out there that are trying to provide mindfulness strategies to students. There's large research orgs that are using assessments that can be implemented once or maybe twice a school year. But the thing that they're all missing is a consistent and iterative way for students to talk about how they're feeling. We do that. Our team of educators and people who want to directly impact the equity gap, we do that. And you can support us by either pointing us to sources of funding, opening up your own pockets, or tuning in and learning what we're doing with our beta launch on October 14th. If you want to learn more, please reach out to me after the show. Thanks.
For the victory lap though. Whoa, they ain't never seen nothing like this.
I graduated, yeah, baby. It was awesome, and it's been everything I've needed it to be, and I believe the universe puts things in your path. It's been awesome people to learn from, and I've been so inspired by my cohort members and the people who have come before us, and I'm super proud to say that I'm a Camelback Fellow.
Camelback provides a very strong sense of family. It's almost like you're having all your cousins around and aunts and so forth and so on. So you're not alone.
It's always validating for someone to say that I want to support you, I want to back you, I want to provide funding for you. But when you have a national brand like Camelback to back you, that's a difference maker.
Can we give them a huge round of applause? Yes. Yeah. I need a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? I need a little bit more. Thank you. You know, as I watched all of our pitches, I began to think about a theme. And I'm old. I'm really old. This gray is just taking over. So one of the, and Dr. Knowles in the back will know, you know, because we used to say dope, right? And somehow dope is making a comeback. Right? We used to say dope back in the 80s. That was the rap thing. That is dope. But I want to say that our Camelback fellows are dope, right? They are amazing in what they do. And I began to think about our mission and why we picked you all. I think about what it means to go home at night and feel safe. I think about what it means to be able to send my twins that haven't been born yet, because Nadia, my good friend, says that I'm going to have twins. But the ability to send my twins, right, exactly, the potential of my twins to schools that are founded by our founders. I think about their ability to, if they're having stressful peers, they can tell their teachers what their need, right? And if they get in a little trouble, right, they may be able to tell that different story because there's going to be some justice for them. And if they go off and say that I want to do more in the world, but I want to spend some time in politics, they know that they're going to get paid. They're going to get paid. And I think about if they have some friends that they go over to their house and maybe they're adopted or maybe they've been in the foster care system, they have the ability, right, to say, you know what, I'm with you. I'm with you. And then I think about Vici and her work. I think about my mother's hometown, right? I think about the great work that you are doing there to ensure that probably my cousins, right, have the opportunity. I think about the kids in New Orleans who've been riding dirt bikes, right, and figuring out how they can do that. I think about if our kids have the ability to have quality subs, or they can create podcasts, right, or if they have the ability to game. It's amazing. Our fellows are dope, and they have, my passion for the longest time has been around black men and boys. And they have a school that is for them. So I think about the communities that they're going to be in, that they're livable communities, that they're equitable communities, and our founders right here have the ability for us to create and sustain livable communities. But they can't do it alone. And they asked, the other theme that I heard tonight was that they're asking for your time and your talent and your treasure. So make sure as you're talking to them tonight, right, get to know them, because they can't do it alone. And guess what? Camelback cannot do it alone. And so we're also asking for your time and talent and treasure so we can continue to do this great work with our fellows who are doing amazing work, who are struggling some days. I had to think about what Ryder said. How many of you all are entrepreneurs and have struggled, right? Raise your hand and struggled. I know, because some of the stories that they have told me, some of the things that we have witnessed, they're struggles, but they still fight on. So with your time, talent, and treasure, they can continue to build their dreams and continue to be ruthless for good. I want to thank, before I close out, the people that actually make this work. I want to thank Caroline, who was our new operations manager, right? For making sure that things were delivered, cars were there, and putting up with me with videos because I wanted to make sure that those videos were in the commercials that we made. Thank you so much. Riaz, our Director of Design and Alumni Engagement, who makes their evaluations go, right? And it's just an amazing design person. He helps us design everything from curriculum to outings, everything for our alumni. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for being, right, my bromance. Nadia Morris, who is our director of our local economies, right, who spends hours at a time in New Orleans with local New Orleans entrepreneurs, giving her time, talent, and treasure, right, to make sure that our local economies, that the people in New Orleans are doing their best. Our director of strategic partnerships, Kelly Salney, who makes sure that we're funded and there people love Camelback, that people actually come to the table, right? And my predecessor, who is now the senior director of our new initiative, the Capital Collaborative, the Elizabeth Bates, right? Who made sure with her and Aaron, they built a wonderful program that I could step into and just move easily. I want to thank our entrepreneur in residence who makes sure that we look good, that everything that you saw today was put together by Muhammad Leela. Please give him a round of applause. And the person that makes us go, the person that keeps us together, the person that keeps us on our toes, makes sure everything is in place, that motivates us, gives us the thought process, sees the things behind us, in front of us, beside us, and on the other side, Ami Magunya, our chief of staff, who makes sure that we are the best that we can be. So thank you so much. Tremendous gratitude. I want to thank our coaches that are in the room today. Scott Garrell, right? And Christina Villarreal, right? Let's give them because without them, without their time, talent, and treasure, our ventures would not grow. Thank you, Scott. See, that's a senior moment when you're almost 50. And Lisa Atia. Lisa Atia is our wonderful coach who also was our host of our live stream, our dope live stream. All right, so make sure you go back and watch. If you have some questions, go back and watch our live stream today. And I want to give thanks to our wonderful CEO, Aaron Walker. I was hoping he came up and did a Russell Simmons bit, like thank you and good night, but I want to thank you all for coming. We still have some wine and food and the opportunity to spend time, and please spend time with our fellows, getting to know them and how you can give up your time, talent, and treasure. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening.